it, basically.
Yeah. In fact, I have a lot of Martins.
You can say Martin Belgium or something.
Uh-huh. One of the guys named Martin, his name ended with a Z. And another guy was in Germany. I've had some Martins. So anyway, no problem with that.
Yes.
And I'm really glad that you did call. For one thing, you're in the position that many people are in the sense that you listen to videos on
Yes.
YouTube, these videos, and you
Yeah.
probably listen to quite a few of them. And then
Every day, basically, yes.
And then you begin to put it into practice. You know, a lot
Yes.
of people watch a lot of movies and a lot of videos and a lot of how-tos, this, that, and a lot of psychology, and then they never do anything about it. They just let the video play.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And that it's good to point out that this is actually an active practice.
Yes.
That is something that we have to do. And we have to practice it in two ways. In fact, it has to be practiced in three ways.
All right.
And that is very, very much like music. That music has to be played in three ways. One is that when you don't know the music, you have to practice it. We have to practice, and we have to actually do that practice on our own. Say with the piano, it's between me and the piano. With the violinist, it's between he and the bow and the violin.
Right.
And it's practice over and over again. That I actually remember wanting my mom to get out of the room while I was practicing. This is something that you do in seclusion, which the Buddha talks about.
Yes.
And then the second way of playing music is actually performance, where we share our music with others, but not with great skill, but rather in budding, producing, processing skill. That in fact, that we have to practice with other people and do it in order to gain that extra skill. And so this is what in music we would call a performance, that people
Yes.
would perform because they're in a group. They're now not on their own. And this then goes to the point of a word called busking. You know what the word busking means?
No, I'm
To
not
go
sure.
out bus. The buskers are the street musicians, are in the malls or whatever.
Oh,
That
right.
so long as no one is around, they're either not playing at all or they're practicing. But if
Yes.
someone comes within earshot, they immediately start to perform to the audience. Guess what? That's a natural kind of thing. Even dogs do it, and humans do it.
Yeah, the same with
Uh,
running. Like if there's no one around, then you're just going at the right pace. And then if you see someone else, then almost automatically you start to pick up the pace a little bit. You put on a
right.
show. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. That we're in public. And so we all have a public and a private persona. And both of them are anattas that have to be changed and modified.
Yes.
Okay. And that this, then I'll go ahead and talk just briefly about the third kind of way of playing music. And that is that when you are no longer practicing, you've got this piece so well. You see, even when a musician is performing a piece, he has to pay attention. He has to keep his mind in it.
Yeah.
He has not registered all the way to the very depths. And so he's got to watch what he's doing. That's especially true with very, very complex music like a sonata or a mazurka or even a what do they call it? A concerto? No, it's solo performance.
All right. Yeah, I don't know anything about music, so I can't help you there. Sorry.
But anyway, The third kind of music is when we actually do play with it, when we're unconcerned with the outcome.
Mm.
We're unconcerned with the audience. We know they're there. We're part of them. But we're no longer concerned with that. We're now concerned with just the music.
Yes, that's the mindset I've tried to develop with the meditation of being completely satisfied, not expecting anything. And then if I catch myself expecting something, I'm just like, I'm good. This is all I need. Like I could sit like this for 3 days. I'm feeling that good. Like it couldn't possibly feel any better. That's the mindset I've tried to actively develop in my meditation.
Martin, I really, really hope that many people will watch these videos, not now, not next year, but in the many, many years to come,
Yes,
so long as
I hope so too.
YouTube will support them, and practice the way that you do so that you can get that benefit out of it. Because so many will just listen to the video and not really pay attention to what you're doing. But this has to be practiced in the face of undaunting adversity, even when we're in private. The whole idea about getting in seclusion is to get away from the world. The real point, though, is that no, going into seclusion is to find out how much of the world you just drug in there with you. And now you have to become secluded from that, too.
Yeah.
The real seclusion is the complete seclusion, and that's just the practice of being here now, being in the flow. So this middle section, this time of performance, is what you would now call putting the Dhamma in your ordinary life. That you have to pay attention to what you're doing. And you're going to actually have to work with two different kinds of people. Those who are ordinary, don't know a thing about the Dhamma, probably will become insulted if you try to give it to them.
Yes.
And they may call themselves Buddhist or even Western Buddhist, but they've got their ideas about how things are supposed to be, and that's how you find almost everyone. And then occasionally you'll run across those who are nobly minded in the moment. And these are the people that you want to associate with.
Yes.
Those who are nobly minded then will help you remain nobly minded for that time while you're in that middle section of the musical performance or being in public. It's known in many ways. It's a very, very standard, easy thing to understand because it's so often. And that is that there's this quality of guilt by association. That if you hang around criminals, you'll probably become one.
Yeah.
That in fact, if you're hanging around criminals, you probably already are one.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Definitely.
And those who go to the same evangelical church have the same views about all kinds of things. Okay, so in that case, we're talking about a community spirit or a community attitude, a social attitude. And that happens in all of the interactions that we have. In other words, if you have one of the world's best concert pianists, and that's the word that I was looking for, concerto, the concert pianist can walk out with the fanciest piano, a Steinway or something like that, in front of a bunch of tribal drummers, and they're not going to appreciate his music.
No, probably not, no.
Right. Okay. So that's the whole issue about the society with which we live. We have to deal with that society at that level of where the society is in order to gain the skills of learning how to deal with things. This is the performance that you got to be able to continue that performance even when cabbages are being thrown.
Yes.
Okay. And this we don't get when we're off in seclusion, except that almost always we start throwing cabbages at ourselves about our practice.
Yeah, I've tried to avoid that as well. Criticizing my lack of practice instead of just practicing right then and there.
Oh, right now I can do it. Never
Yes.
mind how long I didn't remember to do it. I can at least do it now.
Yes, it's very useful because no matter what happens, you can always just practice right now. It's as simple as like snapping your fingers. But sometimes it's just hard to remember.
Remembering to snap the fingers. It's even easier than snapping the fingers.
Yes.
Snapping the fingers is a whole lot of work.
Yes, exactly. It's as easy as in one of your videos I watched recently, you talked about how you can go from thinking about green to thinking about red. It's almost as simple as that. Of course, you may think about red for like half a second and then you're back to green. But then when you're back to green, you can just remember to think again about red, and just like that. You just need to put the small effort of remembering and doing it right then and there. And but I mean, still, of course, it happens to me all the time that I'm like criticizing myself, but as I notice it, then I stop. And it's like relief. You're like, oh yeah, I don't need to do that. Why was I doing that? This is not helping.
Well, now we can go a little bit deeper into the Dhamma in that regard. Okay, and we'll talk about that middle section later, which I'm now going to label for you as Sangha.
Yes.
The Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. The Dhamma is, let us say, the knowledge or the teaching itself. And then the Buddha is starting to associate the mind with the noble. And that's the Buddha, by the way, is in your own mind.
Yes.
All right. And so with that, getting that noble mind from the Dhamma, now the big job is to take it and become part of the Sangha. You become the noble in the crowd until you can get to a place where you can really get the benefit, and that is where everybody around you is noble. And that's what I'm trying to get. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get going and instilled in the minds of all of the students and those who come to listen to the videos, is to begin to think about, where are the nobles? How can I contact the nobles?
Yes.
What do I go looking for in the nobility of others? What is, in fact, an honorable person? You know, they talk about politicians and judges, court judges. You call them your honor, stuff like that. I have never met a person of honor who would be also a politician or who would also be a judge judging others, dispensing dukkha, left, right, center. Okay.
Yeah.
Left, right, and center. The center part is when you break both halves and you cut the baby in half and give each mom half a baby, right?
Yes.
Everybody's
and no one's happy.
And no one is happy with that. So the real honorable person is, in fact, only honorable from time to time. And his job is to pay attention to keep his mind noble, even though he's out in the world. But he would have good friends who are also high quality noble. That, in fact, there's two ways of talking about it. Like attracts like, or another way of saying it is cream rises to the top.
True.
Okay. Now it actually depends upon what you've got there, because so does shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So knowing that, we have to float to the top. And number two, figure out which kind of water we should be living in and floating on the top of. And so getting in touch with the nobles and becoming around. By the way, where do you live?
So I live in Belgium, in the south of Belgium, so where people speak French. So right next to Germany and France, in between France and Germany, and the south of the country.
The only place that I know that would be any place near you, and it's not near, is Plum Village, which is in the south of France.
Yes. Yeah, I've never been there, but I'm very much aware of it. With Thich Nhat Hanh.
Well, Thich Nhat Hanh is deceased.
Yes, unfortunately, I discovered that recently.
There's something that's even more unfortunate, and that is the number of monks and nuns there are primarily Western, not Asian. If it was if he had been an Asian Thich Nhat Hanh and left behind him a community of Asians who had been grown up in Buddhism and really understood it that way, you would be even better off. But I'm really suspicious about Westerners because we've got our really weird ideas.
Yes, about the Dhamma. Yeah.
So, what I actually think that's good is to go into places where we will find the possibility of associating with nobles. And that's also, if we get in, free room and board.
Yes.
So you might as well move right in. And then those who get advanced and far enough along in the Dhamma to where they become really, really into it, really devoted. There is something different between the high school student who plays the clarinet in the band and the university professor who teaches clarinet at the state university.
Yeah, of course.
What is it though?
I guess
is it
much more practice.
Alone, or is it attitude?
I mean, yes, the attitude, but a lot of skill as well, and practice and confidence.
The dedication to practice. Confidence. Now we're going there. That's in fact it. The confidence and the security of knowing that you can do it and therefore practicing well enough to actually do it. This is the quality that we need to look for. And so, in that regard, that high school student clarinet player needs encouragement.
Yeah.
And if she gets enough encouragement, she'll continue to practice and start to enjoy it, and then her dedication to it will grow. The same thing happens in the Dhamma, that we become dedicated to the Dhamma. Well, if you're actually dedicated to the clarinet, you can go become a professor at a university. You can go join many symphony orchestras, hundreds of them around. They all have several clarinet players. Not so many tubas, I know, but at least they've got a lot of clarinets, and so there's a lot of jobs. What is someone who becomes completely devoted to the Dhamma do?
Well, for a job, I'm not sure.
Well, that was the reason the Buddha started the Sangha.
Yeah.
His Buddha Sangha was to give people the system whereby they could have the room and board that they needed. Adequate clothing, adequate housing, adequate food, adequate medical attention is all we need. And that's what the basis of Buddhism is about. You find it at Plum Village, or actually any of the hundreds of Watts that have come from Asia, mostly because it's actually in the United States more than Europe, because of the Vietnamese War and the fact that the UN and the World Health Organization and many other NCOs really worked on them to get all of those refugees that they had created a home. So they brought them to the West by the millions.
Yeah.
By the millions of Vietnamese, millions of Laotian and Cambodians. And where all of the Thais came from was because Thailand was the rest of recreation, the R&R centers. And many of the flyboys and all of the troops who came to Thailand picked up a wife and carried her back. And so there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And so this is the basis of the Buddhism in the West, real Buddhism. And so those Asian communities came together after they got deported, transported, relocated, whatever is the right word for it, into the U.S. Then they went back to Thailand to get the monks to build up the temples, and they knew what they were looking for. And so there's a lot of really good, high quality Buddhist Asian monks in the West.
Yeah, not in my country though, I don't think so.
Not in Belgium that I know of.
No.
I know there's things in Germany and whatnot, but there's also what we're forming is the online Sangha.
The what, excuse me?
The online Sangha.
Online, right, yeah.
Right, we have an online Sangha that is basically Skype based right now and will remain so until somebody has a better plan. But right now that seems to work.
Right now is good enough.
Okay, well, I gave when I sent you the first email, I mentioned the URLs that you needed to punch on to get into the US and the UK Sangha. You probably fit into the UK Sangha right well.
Yeah, I've seen the links. I've listened to the calls as well. My difficulty is the time difference because I have young children, and so in the morning they need a lot of attention, and by the time everything is settled, then it's like past 4 p.m. for you, basically. Because I'm not sure what time it is for you. For me, it is 7:40 in the morning.
The UK Sangha is 4 o'clock Thailand, 4 p.m., which at UK time is 10, so that would be 11 to 12 for you.
Yeah, that one might work.
What time is it right now for you?
So for me, it's 7:40 a.m. right now.
Okay, see, so that's only about 3 hours from now is when that call will start.
Okay.
Okay, so just letting you know.
Yeah, I'll try. That's one of
so that's the whole quality though, is learning to be around nobles, because you won't find nobles on Reddit. In fact, the nobles will generally leave Reddit.
On Reddit, you just find people arguing about terminology and the meaning of this or that word, and it's endless arguments. Reddit or Buddhist forums.
Well, that's because they're not set up and organized around the noble mind.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so coming back to the whole point though, is that as you're practicing on your own now, you begin to say, well, why did I do that? Remember that question? The answer to that is, okay, let's look into that. Why did you do that? Let's go right down into there. That's what the actual investigation is all about. This is what paticcasamuppāda is all about. Okay, and in the beginning, the easy part is to ask the question and disregard the answer because we're too busy having fun. Okay,
right.
But there will come some time when we actually do want to understand how the mind works, because then we can really begin to control it.
Yes.
And so we do then begin to ask those kind of why questions, but not in the Western kind of way. That in fact, we do it in the sense of the Four Noble Truths. This is dukkha. The why then would be, where does it come from? And that leaves us then with the opening of Pandora's box, the inspection of the second noble truth. We got to go really into the mind to find out what's there. But before we do so much of that, we need to, number one, just recognize what dukkha is. And then number three, the third noble truth, is to come out of it and get right into the third position, the third noble truth. And in fact, it's a whole lot easier to do the investigation of the second noble truth from the position of the third noble truth, rather than from the position of the dukkha, which would be, oh, poor me, why does this keep happening? Well, that's not the right time to ask.
Yeah, exactly. But to me, basically, It's always you wanting something else than what you have right now. Like it took me literally 17 years because I'm now 34. I started Buddhism when I was 17. And it's only when I came across Buddha Dasa and your videos that I finally understood the second noble truth. Before that, it was like just massive confusion to me. I was like, how can I be free of desire? And how can, and like questions, instead of just like recognizing right now that I'm feeling dissatisfied because I want something else and I can just let go of that desire right now, not thinking about the future or anything, just right now letting go and being just like, ah, right now is good enough. And then in that realization, I mean, to me at least, this is the second noble truth, recognizing the origin of this dissatisfaction, and the third one, letting go, and the fourth one is just this process of just letting go.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and if I investigate, then it's usually something like that. I might be like thinking about the future and oh, what am I going to say to this or that person, and then usually if I stop and think about it, I realize that it's because I'm not happy with what I'm doing just right now, and I'm like projecting to the future, worrying about the past, and if I can just let go basically of this dissatisfaction of not being happy with what is right in front of me right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's what I've understood.
I want to make sure that you hear me when I say I congratulate you for your progress.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. And that's something that is built into the package also. That in the Eightfold Noble Path, we start with sati to remember to look at what we're doing and then make the change. Okay. And that looking at what we're doing can go really, really deep. And that's part of the deep investigation. So the main thing, though, is to make that change to come out of that. All right. That samma sankappa, though, is the thing that comes afterwards. And that with an understanding of first anapanasati and the process that we go through, we could see then that the actually developing of the skills of the feeling of being on top of the world is actually just an attitude that we have to do. We have to learn to congratulate ourselves.
Yeah.
To stop being the victim, just stop it. And if you stop being a victim, there's only one possibility left, and that is you're not a victim. Isn't that marvelous?
Yes. On top of my own pile of dirt. I like that image.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so you can in fact get on top of your own pile of dirt just with the change of an attitude. The attitude is that I can do this, I can handle this, I've got this wired. And then, in fact, that's the kind of attitude then that we develop when we're in the woods on our own in private. And that's the attitude then that we can get up and go out into the world with that attitude of, hey, I can handle whatever the world's going to throw at me today.
Yeah.
I can do it. Okay. And most of us, we go out with intimidation, with halting, with I don't really want to go and I don't quite know why. And that has to do with because it's not good enough, right? Rather than that attitude, oh, I don't care what it is, I can do it, I can handle it. And so that samma sankappa that gets started when we're in seclusion then kind of gets polished
Yeah.
as we deal with other people and keep coming out of it in a win-win situation over and over and over again. We have to polish that stone, polish that axe or whatever, and get it sharp. Okay, that's the whole idea is that we have to hone these skills, and the way that we hone these skills is with other nobles. That's how these skills get honed. And the skills themselves almost always come in getting the correct solution to that question of why. Why did I do that? Why
Yes.
did I start to do that? Okay, and that's when we begin to look at the feelings of confusion, the feelings of not liking, the feelings of fear, the feelings of longing, all of those kinds of feelings that we need to deal with. We only can deal with them after we learn to control our feelings in general. Okay, in other words, we're going to look at this crap from the bright side of life.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is important. Otherwise, you don't even recognize that you are lost in these negative mind states. You have to
Precisely.
recognize them and then know how to leave them. And then you can
And
realize,
then
oh
you
my
can
God,
look
this was
back
because of
over
that.
on my shoulder and say, oh, yeah, I know him. Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Yes,
I know
yes,
what you're about. Okay, so this is the whole teaching then of why we make that effort, that change to throw the unwholesome thoughts out and substitute them with good, wholesome thoughts, which will also be the gladdening of the mind. And so, what we're going to do to gladden the mind is to gladden the mind by giving ourselves injunctions, instructions, and thoughts about how you want to feel rather than how you're inclined to feel
yeah,
or how you've been in the past feeling. That in fact, we didn't know it at the time, but all of those years we were merely talking ourselves into feeling bad. Now we're actually going to take the time and effort, real effort, to talk ourselves into feeling good. And we will not be talking ourselves into feeling good if we're criticizing ourselves. That's talking
yeah.
ourselves into
It's
bad.
very important to recognize that because you might be lost in your thoughts and negative thoughts, and then you notice it, and then right away you start criticizing yourself about it. And you have to like notice the criticism and then just let go of that as well. And then you can feel good. And I've tried to really develop like really wholesome mind states, thinking like I cannot possibly feel any better than right now. I'm like, this is like perfect. I could stay like this the whole day. I'm like, as I'm sitting right now, like this is, yeah, this is heaven. Like, why would I need anything else? I'm like feeling like amazing. And then as soon as like, I'm like, yeah, but I mean, I could move. I saw you. No, I'm just good. I'm feeling amazing, and like it's like going on and on like that. And then the more I do it, then the longer it lasts. And but then eventually I snap out of it. I'm like criticizing again or whatever, and then I saw that.
Or something from the outside happens.
Yeah. Also, then I mean, then you
Yes,
have to react. Yeah.
there there is a scene in a movie that's quite remarkable enough that is, I mean, this is real Dhamma, and it's coming from the movie The Life of Brian, which is a Monty Python movie. They do a lot of really interesting, funny Dhamma,
Yeah.
and so Brian, this whole crowd of people are chasing him because he lost his shoe, and then he became the symbol of the shoe or whatever. And while he was running away from them and not watch where he was going, he stumbled into a pit. And inside of this pit out in the desert, there was a rishi or a holy man or someone who had taken a vow of silence. And when Brian fell on him, the guy says, "Oh." And Brian picks himself up and says, "I'm so extremely sorry, sir." And then the guy says, "I said, oh. I have been silent for 20 years and you made me say, oh." And then he starts jumping up and down in anger. Okay. Right. So this is something that happens to us often. Here we are sitting in bliss, and all of a sudden Brian falls on us,
Yes.
and we say, ouch, or we say, oh. Right. And there is when it all gets started up again.
Yes. And we forget that we can just go back to the noble silence just
And
then.
that's right. We can just shut up and never mind, start again.
Yes.
That's the point that we don't recognize, that we keep falling into that pit or getting, let us say, impressed upon. Someone falls in on us, the whole world caves in, or whatever like that. And so now we think we have to dig our way out of something rather than just enjoying the show.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so this is part of the training. This is why we have to do this several stages, the 3 stages of on the way to. We have to actually practice this in seclusion, and then practice being out in the world while things are falling on us left, right, and center, so that we can then learn to sit there the way that you're talking about
yeah,
at the end and says, never mind, I'm just enjoying the show. Yeah, the whole world's just caving in. I can write that too. Okay. That's a training. That's a skill that has to be developed.
yeah.
Like,
But it's so easy to fall back. Like, you know, I might be developing these positive thoughts. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling so good, and then like it pops up in my mind. Yeah, but what if something happened to your children? Would you still be able? And I'm like, wait a second,
uh-huh.
my children are just fine. I don't have to have these thoughts. I mean, they're downstairs eating breakfast and chilling out, and there's no need for me to worry. And like, but if you don't recognize it, then you start doubting. Like, yeah, my God, could I practice? But like, whoa, there's nothing wrong with them. They are just fine. Like, take a
Yeah,
deep breath. Forget about that thought. Like this is like your dukkha right there. Just like popped in your mind, and you
that's
can
it.
recognize it, let it go.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's also easy to not like to forget. But then as soon as you
Well,
remember, you just do it.
that,
Never mind.
but the remembering is a skill to be developed. That really an important part of that has to do with that if we remember and practice remembering, we will remember more often, just like if you practice music. And so the way that we can actually practice that is by practicing with our breathing, to control the breathing and mindfully make sure that this is a long, easy breath, and mindfully
Yes.
breathe a long, easy out breath. And that's the training of sati. It's right there in the sutras, that
Yes.
we train the sati with the long and the short breathing. We have to be mindful with each. And on a breath cycle, on an in and an out, that's 2 points of time for sati. Remember to breathe in
Yes.
long, then we got a long time to think about all the troubles in the world, or not. And then we have to remember to breathe out long and let go of all of those troubles that we just dropped up
Yes.
in the breath. Okay, so uh, this is the practice that helps develop the sati, so that it will be there for us when the world caves in on us, or we'll have a great big thought about, well, if I'm happy, my children will have a terrible life, or something ridiculous like that. You know, more than likely, if they have a really happy dad, they're going to have a much likelier to have a happy life.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're much better off ever since I came across the good Dhamma, because I don't get angry anymore. I catch it. And I'm like just laughing at myself for like being getting angry for nothing, and just like smiling and then being like, okay, chill out. I can deal with this situation. I don't need to get upset over this. Whereas in the
Uh-huh.
past, not very often, but I would snap and start shouting for like nothing.
Precisely
Yeah.
so. So there is the life of Brian skit right played out. Okay,
Yes.
your children fall right on you, and you get grumpy.
Yeah. And then I recognize
And
it, and
now
I'm
you're
like,
learning. Excellent, excellent. That's really great. I'm glad to hear you.
yeah,
I will
and
give
just
you
like especially laughing at myself. Like that's
uh,
also the skill I've tried to develop, is like catching myself being ridiculous and getting angry over nothing, and then just laughing. Like, yeah, I saw you. I don't need that. I'm like, I'm happy right now. I don't need to get angry. My children don't need me to get angry. I'll deal with this like while smiling. It's good. Yeah.
okay. Well, uh, This has been a really, really good little conversation that we've had.
Yes,
Where I
thank
think
you.
we should go from here is that you should watch videos that you can actually find that have the word PS or paticcasamuppāda or something like that, and review some of those,
Yes,
or others that are like on the 5 aggregates. That this is an important quality, that once we get the mind fit for work, this is the work to do, is to
yeah,
figure out how the mind works. And so I would then, for us, you could call every week if you want to, once a week, twice a week, that's okay. And we can deal with it on a one by one.
okay, all right. Yeah, I'll try that.
And
Like on the Sunday morning is probably the best time for me. Because the rest of the week I start work quite early in the morning, and then by the time I'm back home, it's like nighttime for you. So yes, but on the Sunday morning I should be able to. Yes. Thank
great,
you very much.
that's good. Yes, I will see you soon.
Yes, thank you, Dhammarato. Have a good day or afternoon,
You
rather.
too.
Yes,
Yes,
bye-bye.
everything is fine.
Yes,
Everything
it
is
is.
good. I wish you a very happy moment right now. Have
Yes, count on me. All right, goodbye. Cheers.
it. Okay.